So today we're going to be looking at making a pretty simple beat a little more interesting. Sometimes when you want to make some music, you want to just start off with a sample and get the ball rolling. And so you can still do that while still making something interesting and different. So to start, let's take a look at the sample that I used today. So now before I do anything, I just want to chop it up a bit. I just wanted to play around with some different timings of things that's a little more unnatural or not expected. And so with that, I just take a guitar rig as well as just some stereo imaging and a reverb and just cut some mids and boosted some highs. And this is what it sounds like. And so from there, I just wanted to isolate this little section. I thought it was pretty interesting. So from here, I did essentially the same thing, but I made sure to accentuate the guitar rig. And so this is it all together. So now with that, I transposed those chords using the Ableton feature just to get an idea of what the chord structure looks like. With that, I used Lounge Lizard, Vintage Verb, Multiband Dynamics, Stereo Imaging, and EQ, just the regular stuff. And it sounds pretty shit. So using that, you can just get an idea of the first couple notes and just riff off of there. You want to kind of do this by hand rather than just taking other notes out, because that lets you get a little variation with it and a little more control. And so this is what it sounds like altogether. From there, I made a synth based on a sine wave with Ableton operator, added vastly the same effects, but here I just increased the attack greatly, so it sounds sort of like a reverse piano. So I took some chops from Arcade and then I bounced them to audio because that allows me to have some more control on it. And this is what it sounds like originally. And so here we have vastly the same effects. And this is what it sounds like. So this is what all our melodics sound like together. So now getting onto the drums. So I started off with a simple drum loop. So from there, I used a shaper box, an EQ, and some stereo imaging. I also pitched it down and accentuated the transients. And from there, I just wanted to use a snare and a clap layered together, and this is what it sounds like. That's just EQ'd and some mids were cut out. And so I wanted to keep this interesting, so you can see that the snare is not hitting every single time. And to go with that variation, I have kind of a different kick pattern. And so I wanted to keep the drums interesting by cutting snares out where you normally think they would be. Delayed my hats and made my claps come early. So moving on to the bass, this is a bass that I like to use in a lot of my videos. It's pretty reliable for me. Is not very on grid in some sections, and that allows me to insert swing by myself. So here I inserted a bass riff to end the section. I also EQ'd it to make it sound more like my other bass notes. And so now for the break. So I really wanted to make sure this sounded kind of like you were listening to it in a lounge or something like that. And so the first thing I did was add some Foley. On the whole group of melodics, I just used a vintage verb with the mix at 100%. I really wanted this to sound like a space. So this is what it sounds like before. And this is what it sounds like with the effects on it. And I did the same thing for the verses. Here, finally, I just added some melody here and there in order to add some variation in some places. I use a lot of the same effects. Here, I just wanted to accentuate and make it a little more squashed and bright by adding some OTT. And of course, I have a few fills, but I didn't want to go overboard. I wanted to keep it simple. And so that's pretty much it. It's just a quick video just to show you that you can make something that's generally simple just based off of a sample, but still keep it quite interesting, using techniques to make verses and intros sound a little different while at the same time keeping everything sounding purposeful. So let me know what you think. I'll catch you guys next week.